Thank you, Kevin. I was just trying to work out how to tell my colleagues to stop talking. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much, Colin, for coming. Thank you very much for flying the flag. We're always grateful that you come. Thank you. So good evening. Welcome to this evening's meeting of South of the Borough. A warm welcome to Colin, who's with us tonight, and to those of you that are watching online. Thank you very much. My name is Councillor Helen Grocott, and I'm the chair of this committee. In the event of an emergency, the emergency evacuation procedure is to leave by one of the fire exits and gather in the parking area. Anyone requiring assistance should remain in their seats, and an officer will assist you from the building. If you wish to follow our agenda from your tablet or smartphone, you can do so by going to our website and following the links from your council on the homepage. Then go to council meeting calendar and you will find this meeting on today's date. Wi-Fi is available if you're here by RBK Free Public. So this meeting is being filmed for our council's YouTube channel, and we keep an archived version which will be available to view shortly after the meeting finishes. The broadcast will be suspended during any adjournments in proceedings if we need to, and the committee will resolve to consider information as exempt business. We're not expecting to do that tonight. Members are reminded that microphones must be switched off and spoken into clearly for the broadcast. So please could everyone in the meeting ensure as well that their mobile phones are switched off or in silent mode. And as is my way, I will invite everybody sitting on these tables to introduce themselves, officers and councillors, starting at the end, please.
Good evening, Councillor Griselda-Kirsch, Chessington South and Morton Rushet.
Councillor Shahrukh Mirza, Chessington South and Morton Rushet.
Good evening, Lorraine Dunstone, Hook and Chessington North Ward.
Good evening, this is Sue Ansari from Hook and Chessington North Ward.
Good evening, Afia Filaka, Hook and Chessington North Ward.
And I'm Kevin Jones, Democratic Services.
Councillor Mark Bainan, King George's and Sunray Ward.
Richard Dean, Neighbourhood Manager, South of the Borough. Good evening.
Helen Millier, Senior Sustainable Transport Officer.
Wing Chan, Sustainable Transport Officer.
Steph Royston-Mitchell, Community Safety and Resilience Principal at the Council.
Lineke Eleveld, Antisocial Behaviour Community Resilience Manager for Kingston Council.
Thank you very much, everybody. Sorry. We do have a few things to get through, so I will attempt to keep us moving briskly as we can. So our first agenda item is public questions. Do we have any questions? Colin, do you have any questions you would like to ask? Okay. Thank you very much. So I will move on from public questions to the first item, the second item on the agenda, which are petitions. Do we have any petitions that we've received, Kevin?
We have no petitions.
Thank you. So apologies for absence, please.
We received apologies from Councillor Andreas Kirsch.
Thank you very much. So we move on to item 4, declarations of interest. Members are invited to declare any disclosable pecuniary interests or any other registerable or non-registerable interests relevant to items on this agenda. Do any members have any interests they wish to declare? No, thank you very much. It says members arriving late, but we may have somebody, Richard, arriving late, Odette, so we'll make allowances for her to help her when she comes along. So we move on to item 5, the minutes. Can members agree that these minutes were held on the 18th of July are a correct record? Yes. Agreed. Thank you very much. I'll just sign these quickly. you very much. So we move on to your presentation, the ASB report. So Stephanie and Lenica, could you please present your verbal report with your lovely slides? You'll need to speak into a mic, otherwise that won't be picked up. So you'll have to literally hold it like you're about to sing, Steph.
This is a new look, isn't it? This is a presentation on antisocial behaviour. It's been put together to really show across the council what the different departments do. It doesn't include police data, and it is just for information only for the meeting tonight. If there are any questions, then obviously we've put our antisocial behaviour inbox on there, and people are really welcome to contact us on that. So basically, it provides an overview of some of the work that we're doing. It is cross-directorate. We're presenting on other teams for the council tonight, and it includes reports made to the council's housing teams and community safety teams, so my team. Reports made to regulatory services relating to noise, abandoned vehicles, bonfires, licensed premises and dump rubbish, and then reports made to the council relating to fly tipping. As I mentioned, it doesn't include antisocial behaviour reports made to the police because of this is going to be a disaster, and it is for information only. So I've just put a definition up there of antisocial behaviour because lots of people have different understanding, but it's basically a very broad category of something that causes harassment, alarm or distress to other people. The point here, I think, is that it can be criminal and non-criminal behaviour. So that's why sometimes the council deals with certain types of antisocial behaviour, or we work with our partners, or sometimes the police deal directly with it. But just some examples are threatening, harassing or abusive behaviour, noise nuisance, vandalism, graffiti and fly posting, fly tipping and dump rubbish, abandoned vehicles and misuse of public space. So things like groups in parks that might be misusing that space and preventing others accessing it. And just to say that we do work really closely with the police and other teams in the council, as well as social housing landlords, for antisocial behaviour in premises that we don't own, to deal with antisocial behaviour where it's not a kind of single agency issue. So just a little bit about what the council does. So we do awareness raising, either through awareness weeks, such as Antisocial Behaviour Awareness Week, community events we try and attend and talk to members of the community. So my team were at Freshers' Fair at the university and the college, for example. Community engagement initiatives, so that could be through surveys or it could be through going out and speaking to people. We do things like walk and talks in the community, where we kind of get in multiple reports. We might go for a walk around with sometimes ward members, but members of the community as well, just to hear their views. We've got options to report different types of antisocial behaviour on our website. And we do prevention, intervention and enforcement. So we go right across the board in terms of what we do. We do some casework, so that includes providing support for victims and taking actions against perpetrators. So again, right across the board, really. It could just be a listening ear and that's enough, or it could be that victims need some ongoing support. We work with our partners, so we've got a partnership board specifically focusing around antisocial behaviour. I co-chair something called Kingston's Multi-Agency Risk Assessment Conference. That should have community in there, so apologies, which is known as CMARC. And we also work with a contextual safeguarding approach. So that's really looking at what's happening to children in our spaces where we're seeing antisocial behaviour reported, because quite often there are other underlying safeguarding issues. We also coordinate something called an antisocial behaviour case review. This is a statutory requirement placed on local authorities, and that's basically an opportunity for residents or other people experiencing antisocial behaviour in the borough to say they're not happy with the response, and that could be from any partner agency. We're really proud that we've actually achieved something called the ASB Pledge, So this is something by an organisation called, this is really heavy, ASB Help, and it evidences our commitment to victims and developing good practice. So we're really proud that we've achieved that, and we think it sends a really good message, hopefully, to our residents and people who visit, work and study in our borough, that we really do care and want to make a kind of good response to any challenges that they're experiencing. I've put a link to our web pages because you've all got a copy, so if you want to go and have a little look around anything I've said, then you should be able to find all of that there. This is just an example of our leaflet that we've got that we take to community events and try and, well, we take everywhere basically that we possibly can. And of course, we've brought some here tonight if people want to take some. But if you've got any suggestions about where we might want to put these to kind of make sure that people are aware of how to report. And I know it might look like it's really difficult to get the right place, but actually if it goes to the right place first, it's much quicker for us to deal with it. If it does come to us and it's for environmental services, we do send it to environmental services or the rangers through our neighbourhood managers, and it does get dealt with, but it just means that it might take longer than if it goes to the right place at the right time. I'm going to hand over to Lineker now, and I'll move your slides for you. I'm glad to hand it over. It's heavy.
Oh yeah, that is heavy. So I'll present the data for the ASB data for the council, and to clearly note that this is only ASB data for the council and not from the police. So this is for RBK housing and community safety. Across the different teams in the council, we have different systems, so I present the data separately. So this is only the housing and community safety data. The reports are broken into 11 categories. We have neighbour disputes, drug use and dealing, ASB associated with rough sleeping, antisocial street drinking, we have vandalism, and you will see through the slides with the data ASB other, and that includes public space misuse, which Steph explained a little bit, verbal abuse and intimidation and harassment are included in that. We have pets, animals, hate crime, unauthorized encampments, prostitution and vehicle nuisance. So between June 2023 and August 2024, borough-wide, we had 237 cases coming to us. South of the borough had 15 in this time. So only 6% of our reports are related to South of the Borough Neighbourhood Committee. So that is quite a small amount. That can be, well, usually it's not because there's no issues. Usually it's because it's not being reported. So it's a low reporting from South of the Borough, and also that is like one of the reasons that we present, that we do our community engagement, that we share our leaflets, because we want more people to report, because when we deal with it in an early stage, it's much better than when it escalates. Can go to the next. So I have here, this is per ward, the different ASB data. So the amount of reports that we got in between that time frame from June last year to August this year. You can see that Kingston Town is the highest, by far the highest amount of ASB cases. That is explained by the town centre. The nighttime economy is a busy area that is visited by many people. And then you see the different wards. You can have a peek at your ward that you represent. If small amount of cases, and you know, like there's a lot of ASB, we get like complaints from our residents, then that might be because it's not reported, or it might be reported to the police and not reported to us. So we have here the ASB reports per category. So you can see on the left the borough total. So you can see neighbourhood disputes and drug dealing and drug use is the highest categories. And for South of the Borough, you can see that there's 6 cases for ASB other. So that's that intimidation and harassment and vandalism, what's included in that. And then we have drugs, 5 cases, and neighbourhood dispute 3, and hate crime 1. It must be noted again that it's a really small amount of cases over a whole year. So that, yes, we can see the categories that we have, but it doesn't give us like a really big picture because it's a small amount of cases. So we don't really know from this data exactly what's happening. We need more narrative around that and more stories and reporting from residents as well. So this one is over time, the amount of cases. It must be noted that it's only like 2 cases on the top, so it's like only it's a small amount again. So you might see a little peak, but that's 1 case more than the month before, for example. So yeah, you see you don't really see a trend in this because of the small amount of cases. Then a bit of a summary of like the data that we have for housing and community safety. 6% of the total cases are from south of the borough. So it encourages reporting. There's no clear trends over time. And as I said, small amount of cases and also repeat cases are not excluded. So it could be that, for example, a neighbor dispute is reported 3 times to us. And that is 3 out of 6 cases, for example. The response to cases, when we get our cases in, we do case management and support for victims. So we deal with it with all partner agencies depending on what the case is and what it means and who needs to be involved. We have a multi-agency approach to ensure the response is victim-focused and appropriate action is taken against perpetrators. And we're sharing intelligence and meetings with key stakeholders to inform the partnership response. So it's all about working together with all the different partners. Us alone as community safety, we can't deal with all the ASB cases because it's not always our expertise. For example, when it comes down to young people, we will inform our youth service. We work very closely together with the youth service to engage the young people into positive activities and see what's going on. That's only 1 example of the many cases that we get. Overall. We have referral to Community Multi-Agency Risk Management Conference. So that is the one that Steph explained and co-chairs. So when it's really complex cases, we refer to that because then we really need all our partners involved and really look at kind of mental health issues. We look at substance misuse that can be underlying causes of the ASB. Projects and activities in your area. So the attendance at Chessington Police Ward Panel meeting to ensure a coordinated response. So the Ward Panel meeting was attended and during these Ward Panel meetings we pick up issues and can respond to them straight away. We also have the Chessington Golf Course, some concerns around, and we're attending on Thursday. There's another meeting related to Chessington Golf Course to deal with the issues there. And also the toll with main allotments, also ASB responds in several meetings with different stakeholders to resolve that. And we used to have the toll with multi-agency meeting, which is focused on toll with Broadway. And this one is now not happening anymore, but we did it for a couple of months. The reason it stopped is because the issues released a bit. Now some reports came up again, and we're dealing with them together with the police, and the multi-agency meeting might come back. So that is sometimes like it stopped because there's nothing we can do at that moment, but then it might come back when things escalate again or things come back. The ASB reports to regulatory service. So that's a different team than us that we represent on behalf. That's the environmental team that leads on the response of those cases and the complaints or abandoned vehicles, noise nuisance, bonfires, rubbish, licensed premises and fixed penalty notices issued for fly tipping. And the data is from July 23 to August 24. So you can see here the amount of cases. In a few slides later, you can see the percentage of cases that comes to south of the borough. But the abandoned vehicles and noise are the biggest categories, and that is for south of the borough the same. And we have here over time, you can see that the amount of cases are lower in this year than it was in last year. The reports are higher than towards community safety and housing team that I presented before. Sometimes increase or decrease in cases can be a positive thing, but it can also be because people are not reporting and have kind of like accepted that is happening in their area. So it can be a bit of both. Now we see here all the different wards and the different categories per ward. Again, the same as with the previous data is that Kingston Town is the ward with the highest ASB cases coming to regulatory service as well. So 13% of the total ASB reports are from south of the borough. That comes from regulatory services. So that's a bit higher than what comes to housing and community safety. The main types of reports relate to noise and abandoned vehicles. And there's a higher percentage of abandoned vehicles in south of the borough compared to borough-wide. No explanation specifically for that. Can be because people report it more, can be because it happens more. Noise reports increase in the summer. We do see a little bit of an increase, and that is kind of explained due to people being more outdoors, people leaving their windows open, so you have more noise, and people hang out more outside as well. So we always see a bit of an increase. And again, small amount of cases to compare, and the repeat cases are not excluded. And the environmental service is very much a demand-led service, so they really respond to the cases. And less of the proactive work, for example, that we are doing around engagement is not for environmental health team. The last bit of data is around fly tipping. The corporate and commercial team leads on the response, and the data is a bit longer. So it's from October 2020 to August 2024. So because we have collected the data a bit longer, have it in the dashboard, we can compare a little bit better. So we can see here in the graph that from October 2020 is a low amount of cases, but then it peaked around 2021, and it slowly kind of goes down. 2023 and 2024 it goes down more. Again, can be a positive thing, but it can also be because people report less. So it's always really difficult to say with data that we have less reports, we can be happy about it, or we can be concerned because we don't get the report. So yeah. Then we have, for the different types of fly tipping, this is borough-wide. We don't have this specified for every neighbourhood committee separately. So unidentified fly tips, so it's not reported what it is. Then we have other household waste and black bags and household, or the biggest categories by far. Then we have some construction and demolition and excavation as well, and some commercial waste and electrical, and some green waste, and the rest is zero reports, or almost none. And the size, most of it is a small van load of fly tips. So yeah, that is people driving around and dumping a little bit of rubbish from wherever they dump it from the house. Single black bag, and the car boot a load or less. So we don't have so many reports of a lorry load, luckily, because that is a large amount of fly tipping, but has big consequences. And yeah, also we almost have non-transit van loads of fly tipping. So it's more smaller amounts. Not that smaller amounts don't have an impact at all. It does have an impact for residents living there, or for us passing by in the borough as well. So yeah. We have the fly tip reports by ward. Kingston Town is not the highest in this case. So here we have Tudor on top with most fly tip cases. And then New Malden Village. And then comes Norbiton, and after that comes Kingston Town. You can have a peek at your ward to see how you stand compared to the other wards. A little bit about fly tipping initiatives, because there is some initiatives going on across the borough. There's the fly tipping task force, which focuses on hotspot fly tipping to discuss what can be done around those hotspots, and also camera deployment. Then there is from Veolia a Let's Scrap fly tipping campaign, and scrap on the right-hand side, I've explained what scrap means. Suspect, check, refuse, ask, and paperwork. It's a fly tipping campaign that was launched in 2022 in Kingston, and it's to be repeated in Sunray Estate and Cambridge Road Estate in 2025. So that's very positive that is repeated. That's around education and awareness raising, also door knocking to inform people about fly tipping, and that is not allowed to fly tip and dump rubbish on the road, but also around what to do and how to report when you see a fly tip, because sometimes it might be there for a while because it's not reported. If it's not reported, it's difficult to do something about. And also state fly tip, I'll have a photo of this later in the slides. And then just a quick mention about the neighbourhood rangers. They also go around in the borough and they also pick up litter and they also make sure that our communities are clean. This is not included in the cases and the reports that we have here. And these are some of the signs that you will see similar signs also on Sunray Estate in Cambridge Road Estate with the campaign. And then this is a state fly tip report on the right. You see this is on Kingston Town Square. This is in 2022. And they did a state fly tip to really explain to people like, okay, now you see it on the town square in a corner. It has impact on people as well. And to really explain what the impact is of fly tipping and some awareness raising. That's all from us. Are there any questions?
So members, do we have any questions? Okay, I have some. I need to put the right glasses on. So I'm interested to understand the interrelatedness between. I can't see. The interrelatedness between reporting to you guys in the council and reporting to the police. How would we as residents know where we report it to? Because I hear you saying that you want more reports to you, and the police are also saying they want more reports to them. Are we supposed to report to both? I mean, how do we know which we can report to you and which we can report to the police?
So ultimately, I think we just want people to report. If it goes to the police and it's a council issue because it's a property that's owned by us and managed by us. Is it switched off?
Yes, if it's red, it's on.
Ah, is that on?
Yeah.
No.
It's red, it's on.
It looks like it's on, but yeah. Need to do it closer. Can't hold it high enough. So, yeah, I think us and the police have had lots of conversations with residents, but we've got no reports, which makes it really difficult for us to allocate resources. So ultimately, we could say if it's a crime, criminal antisocial behaviour, if it's a crime, then ideally report it to the police. But ultimately, if it comes into us and it's drug dealing, and it's not one of our residents, then we would liaise with the police. So we have an antisocial behaviour single point of contact in the police who we meet regularly with and probably have a conversation daily with when she's not on leave. We have regular meetings with all our sergeants in each of the neighbourhoods. And I have a one-to-one on a monthly basis with the police superintendent. So we do work really, really closely, and I probably have a daily conversation with him as well. So if anything comes in that's not gone to the right agency, or we can do something collectively, because it might be a crime, but actually it might also need us to remove some rubbish or remove, some offensive graffiti or something like that. Then ultimately we can just work in partnership on it. So it might not just be dealing with that specific issue, but I would say if you report it to us and it's a police matter, then we will make that contact with the police to deal with it. And equally, the police will generally do the same.
Just to add, to always report to the police when it's an emergency. So if there's any emergency, always report to 999 if it's like something life-threatening or happening now. Otherwise, one-on-one or online police reports. Because if it comes to us, so I manage, for example, the ASB inbox, and the reports as well that come into the council, we don't monitor it 24/7. So if it's something that needs to be dealt with at that moment, if it's a criminal matter, please report it to the police and not to the council, because our response might be a bit slower than the police. So that's an important one. But anything that comes in, we always email the police about it, even if it's for information, if it's a council matter, we'll inform this is happening in your area, just to be aware. And sometimes there's nothing they can do, there's nothing we can do, or one of us can do something, or a partner agency. So we always communicate with everyone, but in an emergency, please report to the police.
Okay, so Councillor Afilaka and then Councillor Ansari.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. It's nice to see the progression that has happened over the years. I think the question for me in terms of enforcement, I know there's some specific area that we enforce and they get fined. Graffiti is one that is also sort of popular. Is there anything around enforcement for graffiti and maybe some few other stuff? That's my first question. The next one is about ASB cases within SOB. So you gave us the data in terms of SOB. I know that with the ward panel, they sometimes give us specific data for each ward. And I think that is important just to help us identify, because we are all unique wards. So it would be nice to identify what is more common in a specific ward, rather than lumping. I appreciate it's good to have that, but rather than lumping it together, each ward I think it would be nice to have that. And also it would be good for us to be able to compare what we have with the ward panel, which is what residents report to police as to what residents report to us. And I think overall for me, it's about continuing to push for residents to, report so that we can have more accurate, accurate data, because at the moment it seems as much as we're doing, it's still not very accurate. We're not sure of what is what. So how do we think of, pushing it more so that we have more accurate data? Thank you.
Okay,
That's
so
2 questions.
Enforcement.
yeah, so the enforcement. So there's a big antisocial behaviour review going on at government level at the moment. Obviously, with the elections, we're not sure what bits will be kept, but there were plans to increase the enforcement options both on the police side and the council side. So, for example, the council can put in public space protection orders. The evidence threshold is very high, but that's to deal with public space issues. The police can't at the moment, so that would be a council thing to enforce. Under the new powers, if they stay as they are, the police will also have powers to put in public space protection orders. But I think there's a little bit to work through. So we do have some powers in the council. A lot of that is around housing and tenants. So, using tenancy kind of, warnings and ultimately possession if that needs to happen, if it's very serious. The rest of the council, regulatory services have got some enforcement powers, but in terms of graffiti, which is the one that you specifically asked, it's really challenging because quite often we see the graffiti or it's reported to us, but we don't see the individual doing it. So I know Achieving for Children, we do lots of walkabouts in the borough where they, which is our children's services, they are photographing and mapping kind of pieces of graffiti, tags, and trying to build a picture of where they're kind of appearing around the borough just to see if that tells us anything. I know in some circumstances the police have actually caught someone in the process of carrying out graffiti, and they have charged them with that. The council's really limited, and I think this is one of the things to be really transparent, which links to the reporting slightly as well, is that sometimes I think if residents report something and something doesn't happen, that might be because we can't identify the person who's responsible. However, what's still really helpful is for us to know that those things are happening, to see if there's trends or particular behaviours or worries that we might want to focus on in a particular area. But I think we have to be really transparent with residents, which we try to be, to say we might not always get the solution that you want. It's a bit like the police. If they can't identify the person that's committed a crime, then actually the victim obviously feels really disappointed, and what's the point in reporting? But the reporting does really help us. So I think that's the bit to get across to residents. They might not always get the solution, or they might think no action was taken, but that's what that ASB case review is for as well. If they really feel like that, they can ask the council to do an ASB case review where we will look at all the actions taken by different partners and come to a conclusion. Ideally, it should problem solve, but again, we might have to come back and say, well, ultimately, we couldn't identify who was responsible. With graffiti as well, we can be a bit creative. So we've got an issue in the town centre where we had some murals done, and for a little while it was left alone. That started creeping in again. So we were looking at maybe trying to do a youth project where we get some young people involved in doing a mural, or and Community Brain do lots of it as well. So we work with Sky High, who works with Community Brain. So there's other things we can do if we can identify a group responsible, but it might not always be enforcement. I'll let Lineker answer about the dashboard.
Yeah. So related to the wards and the data per ward, of course, for this meeting, we've chosen to kind of like summarize it in the south of the borough and just show you a bit of a snippet of the different wards, what's happening. But if for any ward panel meeting that we are attending, I can always prepare a little bit about what we have for the wards. So happy to bring that to a ward panel meeting when we're attending. So just let us know and we'll prepare that as well. Yeah, so that's not a problem.
Yeah, I'd just like to ask a little bit about the mopeds and the scooters that go around. We seem to have more and more of these every week coming in. I've been reporting it to the Safe and Neighbourhood team, but must admit I didn't realise I had to, copy you in as well. No.
You don't need to copy us in.
Oh,
we are very well aware of the issue because police has told us about it. So,
flooded, wouldn't you?
No.
Mine is more about education because I know it's very, very difficult unless you're there on the spot, and that doesn't often happen, does it? So what about education and going around more of a preventative angle? Do you go into schools and things like that?
So related to, first of all, to the scooters, that police has been dealing with that mainly. So we've been made aware of it, but not much that we can do around kind of the enforcement side. So they've been dealing with it. The problem is that they are patrolling by foot very often, and they are gone before they can even do anything. So that's the challenge that they've had with the scooters, and it has been going on for quite some time and only increasing from what I understand. So understand the frustration as a council. Not much we can do around that enforcement side. Around the education side, we do engagement with young people, but we have not done specific education around like scooters or that behaviour. Not done that yet, but can be taken into consideration if that's an issue in your area, for example. Yeah, or through the youth clubs. One thing with the youth clubs, sorry, I forgot to mention that actually, because the youth service has been involved in the scooters as well. So they've been informed and working with the police to identify the people that are actually causing the issue and worrying people because they drive really quickly or on pavements and almost knocking off pedestrians. And they've been working with the youth service to identify those people and to talk to those people. Some of those people are known to the youth service. They're a bit older. They're not within their youth service kind of age anymore, but they still have a relationship with them. So that is things that we do related to that. It might not be directly us, but we might be able to link, for example, the youth service with the police, and that has been happening. But it's not a quick solution. It's not something that happens overnight. So through youth clubs, yes, there's more to do, I think, than through schools. Yeah.
That's great.
Okay, thank you. So we'll have Councillor Kirsch, and then Colin would like to ask a question, and then we'll move on. Thank you. It's great that this is generating lots of questions, though, so this is great. Thanks.
Thank you very much for the presentation. It's as much a comment as a question. So you've done that in Kingston, in the town centre, which I think is a great idea. Have you done that elsewhere in the borough? Because I think if you target high streets, North Parade, indeed here, or Tolworth, or indeed maybe work with the garden centre to get that particular end of the borough where there is no high street, that might really help to get the leaflets out and to get people engaged if you haven't already. I haven't seen it, but I think it's a brilliant idea to go out and actually show what it means.
Can I speak just very quickly?
I just wanted to say I'll hand this to Richard.
Councillor, we have tried that with this Veolia Scrap It, and we put a few locations up, many of those that you suggested actually around our sort of little streets really. The consideration at the time, another 5 tins, the consideration at the time was there wasn't the footfall to bring the necessary impact, if you like, which is why they chose the town centre and that particular thing. But I'm meeting the Veolia people on Thursday afternoon in the Sunray, so I will mention it again, just see if we can bring some people in.
Because if you go to North Parade at the time of a school run, it is actually quite full, around 8:30, 8-ish, thereabouts. You are hard pressed to find, because Castle Hill School is just at the end of it and people park and then go shopping. So it might have to be targeted times, so school run on and off when school ends, because if you stand there at 12 o'clock lunchtime, yes, I agree, but because the footfall isn't as high. But at particular peak times after school, particularly, it is actually quite full there.
Councillor, you don't have to convince me, I have to convince Veolia. So that's the thing. So,
I'm giving you arguments, Richard.
And I will try and be my persuasive best for you.
Giving you arguments.
Sorry, just a point of reference, Tolworth is not in south of the borough. So whilst I acknowledge that there is definitely a problem, and a lot of the residents in Mark and our ward in King George's and Sunray, Tolworth is not in south of the borough. So just to make that point on record, please, for everybody. Colin.
If I can read my writing. You said if it's criminal, then we contact 101. What if it's not criminal? How do we contact? There's a phone number or website or...
I will give you a very nice leaflet with all the information.
Great. The other thing, you were saying about things being reported, and if something happens, people don't know. Are you able to take names of the people that report it, and then a few days later or so, phone them back and give them an update so they know it's not been forgotten and gone in a black hole?
Yeah, absolutely. We always communicate with the people reporting about what's happening. Also, when we close a case that might not be desirable for the person that has reported, but we'll always inform them we've closed the case, it has been handed over to the police, or this has happened. We'll always keep people updated. If that hasn't happened, for anyone, let us know, because that should happen.
I didn't know you existed, actually. Do you find that all this work, do you think you're winning? Do you think you're going snowed under? Are you getting a bit desperate or fed up? Or how is it affecting you? Do you think you're winning overall?
It's
across the whole ASB.
Yeah, I think ASB is always a challenging one, because it's always going to be there, and you find a solution to one problem and you get to the next problem. So that is the nature of the work a little bit. But definitely, it's really nice to bring all the different partners together and find a joint solution, and that those are the most successful solutions, most sustainable solutions as well, that lots of different people are involved, instead of only us or only one enforcement action. Usually when we find out the cause of the problem, actually, what I said like before around if it's a complex case around like mental health issues, around substance misuse, if we can kind of contribute to the solutions for that, we can make a more sustainable impact. So in some cases, it's really challenging because it keeps coming back. And yes, sometimes like, what can we do? And that is sometimes challenging. But other cases, we get it reported and we have a solution, and people are really happy with the solution and what has happened.
One to us.
So yeah, it's like that. Yeah, that's the nature of the work.
Thank you, everyone, for your questions, and thank you very much. I think for me, the takeaway points are, if we report it to the police and it's not the police, they'll tell you. If we report it to you and it's not for you, you'll tell the police. So for our residents, whether they report it to the police or you, it will go to the right people in the end. And as Colin just highlighted, you guys give feedback. So that's really good for our residents to know. And we will, as councillors, make sure that we've got that link, so that when we come across reports in Facebook or south of the borough that says there's an abandoned moped that there was today, we can kind of put the link to say, report it and let us know, and then we can do something. Yeah, thank you very much. That's really helpful. Thank you. Okay, so linking on to neighbourhood work, we come on to you, Richard, with your report, please. Thank you very much, which we can find in Appendix A in full on the agenda.
Thank you very much, Chair. So the report's in two sections, really, for for this meeting. The first one being the work of the Ranger Service, and some of it around the graffiti removal was touched on by my colleagues, and the other bit, an update on Councillor Ward funding spend. So to do the first item first, which is usually the best way around, if we look at table 1, that gives us the synopsis of what the Ranger activity has been from January through to September, and as we can see in south of the borough, there's been 908 incidents of Ranger activity reported. If we take away, as I always do, that one that's the vehicles allowing them to do all their stuff, really, the main 3 for south of the borough are, as they have been since month 1, really, fly tipping removals, graffiti removals, and fly posting removals. So for fly tipping, we've got 136 incidents of fly tipping, which is about just under 15.5% of the total figure. 75 incidents of graffiti removal, and that's the grey area stuff, really, that neither the police or our own antisocial behaviour team get, and 72 incidences of fly posting removal. Before I move on to the second piece about ward funding, have we got any questions at all? Excellent. I'll just move on. So, right. So, as we know, council ward funding, and I can Colin for you because you're here, obviously. Each councillor gets £2,000 to allocate on ward or neighbourhood funding. It's not a matter of they don't spend, they can keep themselves. It's a sort of spend or you lose sort of thing. And the chart here tells us what each councillor has spent to date. So, if we take Chessington South and Malden Rushet councillors, each of the 3 have spent £1,100 of their £2,000, leaving £900 to be allocated. Councillors Grocott and Bainon, if I really could give you a helping
You seem to
nudge.
have missed out all the things that are pending that we've told you about.
I only do spends, Councillor. And I thought you were going to tell me off for going in the wrong order, actually. And the third one is the Hook, the Chessington North and Hook councillors. And whilst I've got Councillor Dunstan, of course, the spend was actually that of Councillor Archer's, but we've got there the planters, hanging baskets, which seem to get ever more expensive. And I think, Councillor Afilika, you'd like to say something about the money that was contributed from Council Ward funding to the recent Hook Centre Open Day.
So thank you. As you can see, we had each councillor contributed £500 towards the Hook Centre Community Day, which happened last Saturday, 28th of September 2024. It was a good event. The most popular thing that happened was face painting. You know, our young people, our kids enjoyed it, although I had my face painted as well, which was very interesting. What we took out of it is that a lot of the stallers, the people that came, wanted this to happen frequently as well. However, this time around, we didn't have as much footfall as we expected. That's the, however, they wanted more of it, and I think one of the reasons was because we had the Surbiton Festival on the same day, and we have taken that feedback on board to say next time we won't have a clash of such. But it's good to see that people want to, be part of the community, come together, collaborate, and just have fun as a community. And the feedback has been taken on board. So this is something we are moving forward, and we hope we'll have next time as well. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of other things from me, some from yourselves as members and the community. Chessington District Residents Association actually would just like me, as they're not here, to mention that they have put an application in to the Tree of Hope initiative. Now, that sycamore tree that got cut down up north somewhere, they have taken 49 saplings, and CDRA have put an application in for one, and they've asked for it to be in recognition of the Citizen Zoo work and to be planted in Tolworth Court Farm, recognition of CDRA and their efforts, and also to celebrate the 1100th anniversary of King Athelstan. So the allocation of that is towards the end of the month. So it's only 49 for the whole country, but I thought it was a good community incentive. So well done to them. And just a couple other things from me is stay active and connected, Move Well, Live Well programme. These are all on our website. The big sleep out, which I've got to give a big shout to, because our dear mayor is sleeping out at the weekend, so anyone can have a go at that if they wish to do so as well. And just a little one for one of our own venues. There's Kingston Park Play that's with our friends at the Sunray Community Centre every Saturday from 10 a.m. So they're all on our website under usually the Let's Talk stuff. And lastly, and what I would say, and unfortunately being the only one here, Colin, you've got absolutely loads of leaflets to take, obviously, but by the entrance stroke exit, and we will ram the door shut so you can't get out. I've got some posters and some little cards around our own community plan engagement and our process around what you as the community want the councillors to be focusing on in the next community plan. It is online, it's one of those lovely zappy QR codes, but if you can't or don't want to do that way, if someone wants to email me or telephone me, details will be in the pack and be seen online, then give me a ring and I can get people through it. But it's really important. We've had it going probably a couple of months now, 6 weeks, couple of months. We haven't got a lot of ideas, so we'd like more actually. So if you can go back to your groups, no suggestion, as I say, is daft, and the more ideas we get, the merrier. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I think it's closing in December, isn't it? So something to look forward to before Christmas. Thank you very much. So we're going to move on to item 8, the Neighbourhood Community Grants. We've got one application this evening. I'm not sure if the applicant's not able to be here tonight by the looks of it. So we've got an application from Kingston Association for the Blind of 2,590, and I'm getting looks. Colleagues, if you would like to go, you're very welcome. We won't hold you here. I know it's you know, you've got things to do, so no, please feel free to leave if you'd like to leave. So our application tonight is for the Kingston Association for the Blind. I'll ask Richard to do the introduction and just talk us through it, and we'll decide how we progress after that. So I'm going to hand over to you, please, Richard.
Thank you very much, Chair. As you say, the one application report for £2,590 from Kingston Association for the Blind, who were set up as a registered charity in Kingston in 1966 with the aim of supporting blind and partially sighted residents of the borough to live independent and fulfilled lives. This is achieved through social activities, support groups, workshops, services and talks in the community. And in addition, KAB works with communities to prevent avoidable sight loss via awareness sessions, which is certainly something I wasn't aware of myself. As we've said, they're applying for a grant of £2,590 in order to provide supportive workshops for both blind, partially sighted residents and health awareness sessions across south of the borough, an area yet to be covered by them. Previous ongoing workshops have been provided for residents in other parts of the borough. In addition, the KAB welfare officer will be able to provide some additional enhanced support to those identified as being in need, and in many cases that's help with form filling and actually identification of what grants and what support people are eligible for. As an initial plan, KAB have already been in touch with St Mary's Church and Community Centre, and they've arranged to attend 6 Tuesday lunch club sessions, and they're also coming to the Hook Centre for 6 sessions as well. In fact, I believe they were present at the Hook Centre Open Day, where they got 3 participants signed up as well, which is all good news. There is work in the pipeline, although it's not come to fruition at this time, for also to have an intervention at Sunray Community Centre, so the team can provide support there. if needed, but as I say, that's a little bit of work in progress, really. At present, these 3 community locations will provide the ability to give information on general eye health, information about how to look after your eyes, diet and lifestyle recommendations, in addition to providing information to blind and visually impaired residents regarding services open to them, signposting, adapted equipment, and helping to, as I've said, access benefits. In addition, home visits will be able to be arranged for the KAB welfare officer to support them in more complex cases. And as you all know, some of the funding requested will be required to enable them to bring equipment to these meetings. By way of explanation, the Table 1 is their grant programme budget. And there are other funds that come into KAB, but this is specific to this project, plus some other funds that they get as well. So, as we can see, the room hire for St Mary's works at £180. The room hire here is free of charge, and then the other items required are marketing, texting, emailing, home visits, travel expenses associated with those, transport taxis, which I'll explain in a minute, giving us a subtotal of £1,090 in the top section, and staff costs allocated to that as a workshop leader and administration support costs of £1,500, thus giving us the £2,590. Just a little bit of further explanation, the cost for the table above. Home visits are conducted by volunteers or staff who are not able to get access to the TfL Freedom Pass process. As we recall, Chair, Vice Chair, we had that discussion at pre-agenda, and these are, I can't think of a more eloquent way to put it, but they're not partially sighted people, they're fully sighted people, so they can't get the Freedom Pass. And the taxi fare is able to get the workshop leader and all the equipment, the workshop leader being partially sighted to all the venues. Staff costs to support the South of the Borough project, with other staff costs in general being made up from charitable donations from other sources. Now, I didn't know that something called the Visual Impairment Register existed within the borough, so as they say, every day is a school day. But 93 residents in South of the Borough are actually included on that. The suggestion, of course, always a bit like the ASB information from the colleagues. There's probably more people that need to be signposted and added to that. They're just unaware it's there, and therefore unaware of the accessibility to help that they can get. So my submission in the report, Chair, is that obviously the project supports the fairer strands of the current South of the Borough community planning, supporting those organisations whose aims include supporting those who are vulnerable within our communities. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Do we have any idea if Adette's coming, or do we know if she's able to be here? We're assuming not. But,
I assume not. I've tried a telephone number. Unfortunately, it's only an office number, Chair, so obviously that's not true. I've also tried an email on the off chance that she may have a phone in her possession, but I'm drawing a blank on that one as well. So.
Okay. So we need to bear that in mind as we're not able to ask the applicant any questions that members have. Do members have any questions? Yes, Councillor Afalaka.
No,
Okay. So, yeah, Councillor Afalaka and then Councillor Ansari. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Richard. I think in terms of the breakdown, I think this is a good cause to support. But in terms of the breakdown and for transparency purpose, I think it will be great to have also the breakdown of what the cost workshop leaders, as others have been broken down, and also the marketing and printing. You know, the lump sum is given to us, but we don't have the breakdown. I think that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think to add to that, Richard, as you know, when we had the pre-agenda meeting and Councillor Afalaka and I were looking, we were asking how the marketing and costs differentiate specifically for this South of the Borough project when they're a charity that already are working with lots of different other people across the borough. So I think, as Councillor Afalaka has said, we wanted a little bit more detail that we would, hopefully Adette would have been able to answer if she was able to be here. So we need to take that into consideration when we come to our consideration at the end. Councillor Ansari, please.
Hi, yeah, what I'd like to say is a big thank you to the Kingston Association for the Blind. for all the support that they give the visually impaired. I've been disability advocate for 2.5 years, and I've been absolutely privileged to see what they do for people. And as Richard said, it's not just 93, it's a lot more than that. Every time there's an event, like they created a walk with earphones going along the Queen's Prom, more and more people are getting more and more aware, and they're getting more and more helped. So fully support this. Yes, thank you.
Any other questions from any other members? Councillor Bainon.
Yeah, just echo what you said, Sue. Yeah, they do. Yeah, do a great deal of fantastic, very important work in the community, and I've done some work with them over the years. And I think when it comes to people with certain disabilities, especially there's a lot more than the 93 odd in the south of Borough, almost certainly, who are visually impaired. And it's often, if you do have certain disabilities, it's often harder to get, just to find out or get access to the help that is available. So things like this, where the outreach is really, really important, and to help people who can be, if not, unfortunately, be more prone to become more isolated and kind of missing out and more lonely, and also all the things that go with it in the community. So I think, it's great work, and I'm very happy to support it. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm in a bit of a quandary, because I think, as Councillor Afalaki has said, for transparency, £1,500 and £400 without having an understanding in detail of what the breakdown of that is, when it was a question that we asked prior to this meeting, I personally don't feel that we can vote on this without the information. But I'm going to just ask for a show of hands as to who out of members feels comfortable voting tonight with the information that we have. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 3 of us don't. You
Can I make a suggestion? I mean, if we could agree this, if everyone's happy, with further information on the proviso that further information comes to you and the Vice Chair to sign off once you've got those details. So an agreement with that to follow.
Yeah, I think that's a very sensible suggestion, Councillor Dunstone. I think there is, as we've all said, there is no debate about the need for this funding. We're all in agreement that the purpose of the funding is to, do some representative work around south of the borough, and as we've said, we know that there's very likely going to be more than 93 residents, and that's part of the reason for the workshops, is to be able to see who else the charity can support. So let me come to the recommendation, and I'm going to change the wording slightly. So the recommendation is that the application for a neighbourhood community grant of £2,590 from the Kingston Association for the Blind, as set out in paragraphs 5 to 12 of this report, be approved, pending, Richard, if we can organise a meeting online with Odette, yourself and myself, and Councillor Afalaki, if she's able to attend, so that we can ask those questions, and as long as we're satisfied, then I'm very happy to ask everybody to vote on that understanding. So having said that, do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Ansari, thank you very much. So would members of the committee, we've done that bit. So can we vote? Do we want to have this as unanimous, or do we want to go to a vote? Unanimous. Thank you. So we're unanimously agreeing that pending this meeting where we can ask those questions, we're fully supportive. So if you can let Odette know, and hopefully she's okay.
Certainly will, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, committee.
Can I please be involved in that meeting so I can just record it for the...
Yes.
The
Yes, so if we can invite Kevin as well, please, Richard. Thank you very much, everybody. So we're going to move forward now to item 9, the proposed LIP, the Local Implementation Plan, which you'll find in Appendix C. This is for 25, 26 to 27 and 28. This is to outline the proposed schemes to be considered for inclusion And as I'm sure Helen's going to say, we cannot vote on this yes or no, but we can take any, or comments that we make can be taken to the main committee meeting for noting. So Helen, thank you.
That's correct, Chair. So my purpose here this evening is to advise you that the annex lists all of the schemes which are proposed to be taken to the committee on the 12th of November, and to invite you to give me your comments this evening so that they can be considered at that committee. So no decision on schemes can be taken tonight. Chair, how would you like to meet me to start taking these?
So I'm going to open this to the committee to ask if anyone's got any questions once I've done the resolution. So is there anything else you want to say in your introduction, Helen, or are you happy just for people to ask questions of you?
I'm just happy for people to ask questions, Chair.
Thank you. So the committee is asked to resolve that the proposed schemes as listed in the table in Annex 1 of this report be endorsed and included in the indicative submission to Transport for London, that any comments on these proposed schemes from the neighbourhood committees, as the other three, are going to be reported to Place Committee for consideration, which meets on the 12th of November this year, and to note the intention that any adjustments required to the proposed schemes, should funding levels be reduced by TfL, will be delegated to the Assistant Director Highways Transport Regulatory Services in consultation with the relevant portfolio holder. I would add to that that I would like to be informed of those decisions as chair. Thank you. So having said that, do we have a seconder? Councillor Dunstone. Thank you very much. So does anyone want to ask Helen any questions, please? Councillor Dunstone, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. It was just a bit, I couldn't quite understand on project number 7, to set up a new project and commence engagement with stakeholders to develop an area-wide scheme. I'm not quite sure what that means.
Are you referring to the Chessington North Area study?
I am, yes. Thank you, Helen.
So the highways team receives a large number of complaints about through traffic in the North Kingston area, and the project will take a holistic approach to review the area, which includes Hunters Road, Roebuck Road, Mount Road, Cox Lane, and the roads in the vicinity of those. And the idea is to utilise the TfL Healthy Streets approach, which is contained within the TfL data pack, to come to a solution which benefits the maximum number of residents rather than favouring a single road.
That makes sense. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Councillor Griseldas Kirsch, and then Councillor Bainon was first. I'm sure he doesn't mind waiting. Thank you.
No, you go first. Okay. Point 18, south of the Borough cycling review. Do you already have an idea? Sorry, my mistake. South of the Borough cycling review, point 18. What do you understand in the south of the borough? Do you have specific focal points, say the A243 or Jubilee Way, where we have already had a discussion? So do you already have an idea what kind of area this would encompass and where the need might be?
So in terms of Jubilee Way, that's listed as a separate scheme in the annex. In terms of the south of the borough review, it's difficult for Kingston Council in isolation to tackle the Leatherhead Road because that is on the TLRN, so it is controlled by TfL. But we will work with TfL to try and find some solutions to increase permeability in the whole of the south of the borough area, which may include using some of the quieter roads as linking roads. But the purpose of it is to carry out that review, so I can't preempt what might be in it.
Councillor Bainon.
Thank you, Chair. It was just about the Jubilee Way cycle route. I think that's been something that's been on the agenda for a while, so I don't know if you're the right person to ask, but just wondering where we're at with that. And do you know, it looks like it's still got the kind of 3, is it, let's have a look. Oh, well, it says it's 2 years, so it's still another 2 or 3 years away from being completed. So just really an update on that really would be good.
Okay, so you're quite right. It's been ongoing since 2018, I think. Certainly been ongoing a long time. And during that time, the plans have changed, particularly following some ecological surveys that were done on the edge of Tolworth Court Farm, which prevented the cycle lane from being extended in the way that it was intended all along the periphery of Tolworth Court Farm. And it has required a toucan, so a joined pedestrian and cycling route, to cross it over to run along St George's Fields. And the negotiation for that to then join it up with the cycle route that's existing already outside the Lidl HQ and round to Tolworth has taken some time. But the current section of the Jubilee Way that's included within this annex is to design and build that parallel crossing, so the joint crossing, to get the connectivity between the two sides of the road.
Yeah, you can, and then I might have a supplementary myself, seeing as this is in our ward.
Well, yeah, it does say design is part of the next stages, but have we got... yeah, that's what's the question. Yeah, have we got the design? Is the outline of design, well, the design now kind of decided upon, or the main principles of where the route's going to go? Is it more about building it out?
I believe, Chair, that you've seen the designs.
Yeah,
for that.
okay.
Yes, we've already got a design. So I'm not happy with the wording here, because the parallel crossing, I'm not sure what that means, because there is no cycle lane yet built on the King George's Field side, and that was the piece of work that we were doing until it was paused. So we already established, as you said, following our request for an ecological survey, that it couldn't run the Tolworth Court Farm Field side because of the trees. We weren't going to remove them. So the crossing that's already there at the from, I'm going to say left to right, but from the Tolworth Court Farm Field, that's already in existence. So as far as I'm aware, when it got paused, we were looking at developing a 2-lane pedestrian and cycle path along the King George's Field side. That's what we were looking at. So the crossing following that past the playground on the right in King George's Farm Field was kind of like phase 3. So we can't have a crossing to connect the two routes up when the route hasn't been built yet. So I'm not sure what this actually means, what we're applying for funding for.
So I've made a note of that, Chair, and I'll ask for that to be clarified, to go into the comments.
Okay, so if we vote this through, I would want to know the answer to that before we can... I know we're not unable to say yes or no, it's for comments, but we do need to have that answer before it goes to the committee in November. Please, Helen.
Yeah, I'll ensure that happens.
Councillor Afalaga.
Ref 10, school street programs, it says to deliver 2 new school streets per year. So is this across the borough, or how does that work?
That is across the borough, so that's still under discussion at the current time.
So how do we, what's the rationale behind 2 across the borough? Because
We have delivered 10 school streets so far. Each time we deliver one that is easier to deliver than the ones we haven't done yet. The first few school streets were relatively simple to implement. The fewer school streets we have to choose from, the more difficult they become to implement. Some of them are really just not possible at all because of the type of road the school is located on. And so the amount of investigation and data and design that is required now that we've already delivered 10 gets ever more complex. And so that is the rationale behind delivering 2, in that it's very important that we deliver 2 that can go to an experimental TMO and be considered sufficiently robust to then be made permanent, because otherwise the expenditure has just been wasted.
Thank you. So the 10 that's been delivered, on average, how many have you delivered within a year over, the 10 that you've delivered?
We delivered the first one, I believe, in about 2019, which would have been Lovelace, south of the borough. That was our sort of flagship project. And in the first few years, we worked to deliver 2 or 3, or maybe 4 on a good year. But it becomes ever more difficult to identify schools. Some schools we work with and get quite a long way down the line before we realise that it will just be impractical and that we do not have the support, which we must have the school, the residents and our ward councillors' support to make a success of these schemes.
Okay. So you're just saying that the capacity we have, and realistically we can deliver 2 per year comfortably.
We believe that that is the case.
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Dunstone.
Yeah, sorry, if I could just jump in on the Jubilee Way, so apologies, Chair, because I know it's not my ward, but previously there was funding available that had been come through from Lidl's and TfL and others. Is that funding still available to complete this project?
Sorry,
I was just saying it was never enough. We were always understanding that the funding was never enough to complete it, but it was going to half complete it. So it's a very good question that Councillor Dunstone asks, that funding always had a limit on when it runs out, but we're asking for this funding on top of that. So we need to know when that funding runs out as well. Yeah, thank you.
I've made a note of that.
And then you can, yeah. So my last question before we bring in Colin is micromobility parking. What does that mean, please? Number 20.
So micromobility is a catch-all term used for e-bikes and e-scooters. Currently, e-scooters are not legal in Kingston Borough because we are not part of the TfL e-scooter trial, and an e-scooter outside of the TfL trial or any local authority approved trial is not legal on the roads. So in the current time, this applies only to e-bikes, dockless hire e-bikes, and in Kingston Council at the moment, our contract is with Forest. The micromobility bays are to implement this e-bike parking on the carriageway to remove it from the footway to reduce the inconvenience to our residents, particularly those with mobility or visual impairments who find themselves inconvenienced by e-bikes which are left inappropriately parked, and also obviously for parents with buggies and anyone else using the footway. So the purpose of the micromobility parking submission to TfL, for which they provide a separate pot of money, is to follow the lead of other boroughs and to have parking on the carriageway.
Thank you. Colin.
Just going back to Jubilee Way, I had in my mind that you said that they could do the bike on the court side, and then they had to cross over the other side, which we thought was a bit strange. But I seem to remember that the other side, the field side, I thought they were going to talk about purchasing some of the land to make the bike, so you don't take it off the pavement, don't take it off the road, you pinch a bit of King George's field. I had that in my mind, that was what a suggestion was, and I don't know if that was correct.
So it was never, you're right, it was a suggestion, and there are currently conversations, I'm sure Helen will add in, but when it got paused due to work commitments and workload and other priorities in terms of cycleways, there had been a lot of work done with the trustees of some of the fields and who owns the other parts of fields, and all that information was found out. The suggestion was that the green metal fencing would be moved back, as you say, to allow for there to be the adequate 2 metres for cyclists and for pedestrians. But that was never brought here or approved, so we're kind of at that phase still where those things are being looked at.
Put out there.
Yes.
I didn't know if you remembered that, or if you noted that was a possibility.
Yes, that is still where we're looking at, but we haven't moved on from that point. But you're right, that is still in
mentioned, I thought maybe you'd forgotten about it.
No, it hasn't been forgotten. It's all documented.
Good. Okay. That was all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Helen, did you want to add anything?
No, your summary is correct.
Great. Okay, so bearing in mind, Helen, that you have agreed kindly to get back to Mark and I as ward members, but as myself as chair as well, to come back about the details of Jubilee Way before the 12th of November, which is when this goes to place. Can I take this as unanimous, or would we like to vote individually?
With the amendment.
With the amendment.
That you being involved. You wanted to
Yes, with the amendment that you will let us know. Yes. Are we happy? Unanimous? A seconder? Councillor Bainon, thank you. We've done that bit already. We've done that already. Sorry, who's the chair? Who's the chair, please, Councillor Bainon? You're confusing me. We've done that bit already. Right, we voted, it's unanimous. Thank you very much, everybody. So we're going to move on to item 10, Lovelace School in Devon Way, Lovelace School, the Devon Way School Street programme. This is in your packs in Appendix D. There is some late material. Are you referring to the email?
No, it was late material published.
Oh, late material published because the report was slightly late, I understand. So thank you very much, Wing Chang, for being patient, and over to you to introduce the report.
Thank you, Chair. I'm here today to request that the committee approve the experimental school street at Lovelace Primary School in Devon Way, and approve that it's made permanent.
Is that it?
That's pretty much it.
Short and sweet. Okay. Colin, would you like to make any comments, ask any questions? No. Okay. Members, we will do the resolution and then you'll have an opportunity to ask your questions. So the committee is asked to resolve that. And again, we've got an additional pending bit to this. So to resolve that, we consider and set aside the objections of the ETMO as set out in the report, and we inform all those that made representations what our decision is, and that this School Street Experimental Traffic Management Order, which is what ETMO stands for, is made permanent pending a meeting with Councillor Dunstone, Wing Chang and Laura Smythe from Yorda Adventures in acknowledgement of some of the difficulties that they've had in particular. We know, Wing Chang, that you and Yuzir Khan have met with Laura and previously with Councillor Steph Archer involved as well. But we felt we wanted to have this, if we agree as a committee, pending this meeting, to acknowledge that we would like to continue to work with Yorda Adventures, bearing in mind the important work that they do for our residents and our young people. So do I have a seconder with that caveat in mind, please? Councillor Dunstone, thank you. So, members, would you like to ask any questions?
It's an amendment.
This is an amendment.
Pending a meeting with Councillor Dunstone.
So pending a meeting with Councillor Dunstone, Wing Chang and Laura Smythe, and myself if I'm available. But I don't want to make it only on a Friday. And obviously we need
What's
to...
the point of the meeting?
The point of the meeting is to acknowledge the email that Laura has sent to us today, requesting that the school street experimental traffic management order is not put forward, that it's dropped. I won't...
What are you going to meet with her?
So the purpose of the meeting is to ensure that she feels confident that the way we're supporting them, we will continue to support them, so that she feels acknowledged, that her concerns have been acknowledged formally, pending our decision. So do we have any members who wish to speak? Councillor Afilaka, thank you.
Just having a look at the late material, the last page. Well, I guess one of the reason for the school street is to reduce the footfall of, maybe to reduce cars around that time. But I'm not very clear of what happens with the public transportation, which is the car and motorcycle. Because over the years, it seems as if there is an increase. I just want clarification on that. If I'm getting it wrong, or I don't know. But it seems, because this is in percentage and it's proportional, so it's obviously seems as if the number of cars has actually increased. So is there a reason for that? Because the intention is for that to reduce, not to increase. So, yeah, thank you.
Yes, no, you're completely right there. On the document that you're referring to, the hands-up surveys that are generated from the school, is that right? There is, from a total of the cars being used, there is a reduction, but as you have pointed out, there seems to be an increase with the cars and the motorcycle. This data and information is provided by the school. It's conducted by the school with the staff and the pupils. Looking at it again, I think this may be a slight error in that this is most likely in the wrong section. It should be park and stride, because therefore you can't have an increase with the restrictions there. So yes, you are correct, but I do feel that that's actually not a true reflection of cars and motorcycles going down the restricted zones, but rather parking and striding through or outside of that area through into the school. But I'm more than happy to clarify that with the deputy head. Yes, of course, I'll make a note of that.
When did you want to talk about the data in your report in paragraph 17, which has the opposite outcome in terms of cars and so what I'm reading in paragraph 17 after the table is the data shows that this scheme has reduced the number of all vehicles, but particularly light and heavy goods vehicles since this school street was implemented. So I wondered if you wanted to just speak about that in relation to Councillor Afolaku's comment.
Yes, there was, yeah, as you stated, an increase post-implementation. These were vehicles essentially that had been passing through that were not exempt and were captured at the time of passing through and received a fine at that time. So these aren't necessarily vehicles that are complying with the restriction at that time.
So does that support a decrease in the number of vehicles as a result of the school street or not? I'm not clear on the conclusion from the data.
Well, it does from the hands up data survey that there has been an overall yes. In comparison to paragraph 16, there is a fair reduction or a substantial reduction from that point. But in terms of the hands up survey, the school have reported that there are more active travel being sort of chosen and that there is a positive mode shift.
So I think the point that I was wondering if we could pull out was pre-implementation on the day or the week from the 17th to 28th of November last year. In the morning rush hour for school there were 51 cars and in the afternoon there were 58. Once the school street was implemented and the same data was taken again from the 6th to the 19th. Okay, I think your data's wrong. It's the wrong way round because what it's saying is from the 6th to the 19th, which is before the 17th to 28th, the cars were lower. I think, if I'm right, the car 51 and 58 was in the kind of baseline data, which should have been taken from the 6th to the 19th of November. And then the post-implementation data, I think, should be the 17th to the 28th of November, which is a reduction in cars to 26 and 34. Otherwise, the data doesn't make sense. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think that's what's
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but the report's been written the wrong way around by my reading.
I think you're completely correct.
Okay,
yeah,
so the report
apologies.
should actually show that there has been a reduction in car use as a result in terms of this data from the implementation from 51 cars in the morning and 58 in the afternoon to 26 in the morning and 34 in the afternoon.
Yes, it's definitely the wrong way
So
around.
can we please make sure that this data is corrected in the report? Thank you very much.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
I think that is an answer to your question.
Yes.
Councillor Ansari.
Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you.
Can I ask about the equality? Does the just want to talk about the equality analysis for a minute, and to reassure people that might have people ill in the street and they need to get in. Could you just talk about that? I'm looking through the analysis and I'm happy that it's there, but if you could just talk about that for the residents.
Yeah, of course. The school streets team are open to any extenuating circumstances, and where there are residents that may need care or
exactly.
For example, maybe quite late or heavily in pregnancy, for example. We do ask that they contact us directly, explaining their circumstances, and we will treat each case on a case-by-case basis And we have made exceptions on those type of circumstances to allow them to have access as and when they need to.
That's great. Thank you very much, Wayne.
No problem.
Are there any other questions or comments from members? Councillor Dunstone. Just a comment really from me. Up until 7 years ago, my daughter was at Lovelace, and I know how horrendous it was parking in that area, for particularly for residents. You know, I've witnessed people parking on pavements and parking over driveways and parking dangerously on corners. So I welcome this, you know, that's coming as permanent. So whilst it might have been a few years ago, I think it has still been relevant up to a couple of years ago. So I'm comfortable that we move forward with it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And Wynne, could you just talk us through how, in principle, how the ANPR camera works? It's one of the considerations that Councillor Afilaki and I had around the camera is there to not to make people not do it, but it's as a kind of part of the process. So how does it work in terms of the use of the ANPR camera?
Yeah, of course. The ANPR camera usage within school street schemes, as you pointed out, is merely a tool. It's not an essential part of its foundation. It's there to assist with compliance and show that there is a presence when there is a restriction in place. And they're not always within one place. You know, it's quite a valued resource. It's limited, so it can be moved essentially from school to school depending on stakeholders' sort of concern or need, or where they feel that it could serve better there. And in this sense, there is compliance within Devon Way, and the school have you know, expressed that it's made a dramatic change, and you know, as Councillor Dunstone has said, you know, all that sort of congestion and sort of road safety issues are a thing of the past. But yeah, it's not. It is just a tool to assist with the scheme.
Thank you. So I think what I'm taking away from that is that it's not contingent on the presence of an ANPR camera for a school street to be a success.
Exactly.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, now, Kevin, my trusted colleague from Democratic Services, has told me that we can't have something with a pending meeting. So, Kevin, would you like to suggest how we have this amendment to the resolution, please?
Can I suggest we don't make it as an amendment, we put it as a part of the minute, that Councillor Grocott, Councillor Dunstan, the lady from Mrs. Smith and Wing Chan meet and explain that we're listening to her, rather than it doesn't fit into the recommendation.
Yeah. So I think what we're saying is it's an action for the meeting rather than we will make this pending that. If we're happy with that, everybody. So let me just read this resolution again so we're all clear what we're voting on. So we consider and set aside the objections to the ETMO, the experimental traffic management order as set out in the report, and inform all those that made representations of the outcome, and that Devon Way, Lovelace Primary School, ETMO is made permanent, and the necessary statutory process be undertaken to make the order permanent. So can I have a seconder?
You've got a seconder, Councillor Dunstan.
So we're happy that I've just changed gone back to the original wording. So with that, are we happy, having said what Kevin has said? Councillor Dunstone, you've very kindly suggested that we can meet with Wing Chang and Laura Smythe. Are we happy to vote on this unanimously? Agreed. Yeah. Agreed. Thank you. Wonderful. Yes, quickly.
There are certain times when vehicles aren't allowed in there, and it crossed my mind, I think, from Ansari. If you have elderly people that have carers come in, if they come in to get them in and out of bed or at tea time, within those times, will they get fined? Because I know sometimes somebody will have to take someone else's place, so they might not be aware that they're not allowed to park. So I just wonder what happens if they get picked up on the ANPR. Are they going to get fined, or?
I will let Wing answer, but it's the responsibility of the organisation to make sure that all their employees know these sorts of things. It's not the responsibility of the council.
No.
So if one person was stepping in for another person, it would be that organisation's domiciliary care responsibility to let the staff know. But I'm going to ask Wing to add.
If they're not that good, they don't. Then the carer can get.
So we, as a council, we can't monitor
No, I know
the
it's not.
effectiveness of communication, but
No.
I understand the kind of the premise of your question.
Because they don't get paid much anyway. You go and take a fine out of them, it's just not on.
Wing?
Yeah, no, I appreciate where you're coming from. Very similar to what I'd said before, we would take that in consideration, but we would ask that the organisation provide some sort of documentation once they've received that notice of a fine, to contact us, where we will, verify the circumstances, and yeah, if required, we will waiver that PCN based on those circumstances.
I mean,
but they will need to make contact with us.
Yes, there might not be anybody in that area that needs them, but it's just something that went through my mind.
Yeah, it's a good point.
The premise is that we don't want those that need carers to be,
No.
have a negative effect from the school street. So thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's move on to item 11, urgent items authorised by the chair. You'll be very happy to know I don't have any. So we will close the meeting at 21:16. Thank you very much, everybody.